Hello you guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're gonna wrap up the year of 2024. I saw Sarah Caroli do this kind of video and I thought that was a better alternative than me just rambling on about every single book that I read in 2024 because that would be a really long video, and also this is just more fun. Before I get into the tier ranking list, I have my laptop here by the way. I thought it would be really fun to open up my book of the month box with you guys. This is actually something that I started doing the last couple of months. I think it's such a fun way to kind of explore books that are out of your comfort zone, and also who does not love getting book mail? Obviously it is a subscription that you pay for. It is about $18 a month after taxes. You do have the opportunity to skip on certain months if you don't like the books that they pick out. I have skipped I think twice now. The book that I ended up getting for the month of January was The Favorites by Lane Fargo. On the cover it says, "To the world they were a scandal, to each other an obsession." The main characters I believe are like very famous ice skaters. It just sounded like a really cool romantic drama. This actually I don't think comes out until maybe the middle of January. So another thing that's really fun about book of the month is sometimes you get books earlier than what everybody else does. They also do their own covers on some of the books. All of the books also come with a bookmark every single month, which I think is really fun. The bookmark that I got this month says "Pause for dramatic effect." If you guys want to try out book of the month, I'll leave their link in the description box below. Again, this is not a sponsored video. I did spend my own money on the subscription. Let's put this away and get into talking about some stats from all the books that I read in 2024. These stats I just pulled off of my Goodreads account. It's just my 2024 year in books. I'll put some screenshots on the screen so you guys can see what I am seeing right now. My total books that I read last year was 51 books. I actually surpassed my goal because my goal was 46 books, which is really exciting. And then the total page count that I had for the year was 21,608 pages. The shortest book that I read was 111 pages, and then the longest book that I read was 1,276 pages. My average book length in 2024 was 423 pages. I feel like that's kind of long for an average book length. My average rating for 2024 was actually 3.6, which is really interesting. I don't really think that that's accurate though, because I do tend to like rate books 3.5, 3.25, 7.5, and Goodreads doesn't have like quarter stars. Moving on to the tier ranking list, like I said, I saw Sarah Caroli do this kind of a video and I just thought it was a really fun way to talk about all of the books that I read. So I am gonna screen record. Hopefully I do this right. I'm gonna screen record this on my laptop and then I will put it up on the screen somehow so you guys can see what I see. Okay, hopefully if I'm doing this right, you guys can see my computer screen right now. But I kind of copied her tier ranking style, I guess. I did change a couple of them. The first one is Inject This Into My Veins, Please. These are books that I was really obsessed with, possibly potentially 5-star ratings. The second category is Ate It Up, but didn't get 5-star feelings. The third is I Would Recommend, but I haven't thought about it twice. Then we have We Were Rooting for You. This is probably a book maybe I was expecting it to be better than it actually was. And then we have Don't Remember Reading It. And then the last category is Wasn't Worth My Time / Did Not Finish. And I did have a couple of those this year. So going in no particular order, starting off with Love Song Suck. This is actually by Becky Monson. This was a really cute romance. It takes place in Nashville. The main character, her parents, I think were in the music industry, but she kind of didn't want to be in the music industry and she ends up falling for a guy that is in that industry, and it was a whole thing. It was cute. I would recommend it, but I haven't thought about it twice, just because it wasn't one of my favorite reads. Next up, we have a couple poetry books. Just to be completely vulnerable with you guys, I know in a couple of my videos I had mentioned, you know, I was going through some personal things last year. I went through a breakup last year and that was really, really hard for me. So you'll see a lot of kind of self-help poetry books in here. As I was going through that, it just was a way for me to feel like what I was feeling. I felt seen, if that makes sense. I have You'll Come Back to Yourself. This I actually did really like. Probably would recommend, but haven't thought about it twice. The next one, This Was Meant to Find You When You Needed It Most. This is by Charlotte Freeman. I actually really enjoyed this book. This is another self-help poetry book, and she has beautiful writing, and I just feel like every single page hit for me, especially going through something that emotional. I would probably say ate it up but didn't get 5-star feelings. I don't really rate nonfiction books just because I feel weird rating books where someone is kind of just like giving you advice or telling you their life story. Like, who am I to judge what you have been through in your life? So I don't normally rate nonfiction books. The next one, what is this? Healing for No One But Me. Honestly, I don't really remember reading this one. It was just another one of those self-help poetry books. Like, it wasn't bad. I don't really remember reading it. We have Eat, Pray, Love. This one, I was just in a phase where I was just like, I really want to read this. Like, I want to experience this girlhood. She was kind of in the same situation as me, like going through a breakup, wanting to basically start over, and she kind of travels the world, and I thought it was going to be exactly what I needed at that time, you know? I have to say, it was a pretty boring book. I think I rated it 3-ish stars. It was really cool to see the main character go through this spiritual transformation, and it started off really good in the beginning, but I just feel like it kind of fell off as I was reading it, and I kind of lost interest in it, and then the ending of it, I just didn't really care for. So I would put this in the category of we were rooting for you. Next one was actually a book that a coworker recommended to me, and he was like, I really want you to read this. Like, he's been pestering me for probably over a year now to read this book. The Count of Monte Cristo. This is the longest book that I read last year, and it is a Penguins classic. So obviously, you know, going into it, there is going to be a little bit of a language barrier because it was written in like the 1800s, and I feel like sometimes when I read those books, it's just like harder for me to understand because they just talk so differently back then. Maybe we were rooting for you. I don't want to put it in the don't remember reading it because I do. And it's not that I didn't like it. I just feel like I didn't fully understand it as I was reading it. But I bet if I read it again, I could probably grow to appreciate the story. It is a very famous book and is very highly rated on Goodreads. It just wasn't really the book for me. Moving on to The Light Pirate. This one was definitely we were rooting for you. I don't even remember what the genre for this one was, but it does deal with climate change, and it also takes place in the state of Florida. Automatically, I was like, this sounds really interesting. It's also very highly rated on Goodreads, but it just like wasn't really what I expected it to be. I think I rated it somewhere in the 3-star category. Moving on to The Guncle. This one was actually a book that we read for my book club, and it was really fun. I listened to the audiobook for it. I really liked the person who did the audiobook. I would say I would recommend it, but haven't thought about it twice. It was really cute, but I don't really see myself reading the second book. Moving to Divine Rivals. I think I would put this in, inject this into my veins, please. If you guys watched my last video where I was talking about all of my 5-star reads, actually I will put in, where is Ruthless Vows. Ruthless Vows was included in that video, and that was actually one of my 5-star reads last year. Normally with the books that are really highly rated, very popular, and go viral on TikTok, I try to stay away from those kinds of books. I feel like they tend to be overhyped, but with this series, I absolutely loved it. I loved the premise. I loved the genre of fantasy that it was. They were also so romantic. I loved the second one. Like I said, I rated that one 5 stars, and I was just speed reading the entire time. I go into more detail in the last video. I'll link it up here if you guys want to check that out. The Housemaid, would recommend, but haven't thought about it twice. I think that was the first book that I read last year, and normally I'm not really a person who enjoys reading like mystery thriller books for some reason. I would recommend if you are just starting out and wanting to get into that genre, because it was very easy to follow, and also the twist I didn't really see coming, and it was just really fun. Like, it wasn't, oh my gosh, this is great, but it wasn't bad either. And they're also making a movie. I also will say I don't think I'm going to read the second one because it's not one of those books where I was that invested, like I need to go into the second one. Belladonna, I ate this up. And again, if you guys watched my 5-star reads video, I ended up rating Wisteria, the third book in the series, 5 stars. That was injected into my veins, please. It was so romantic. It made me sob. It was absolutely incredible. I made a new book boyfriend. I just love this whole universe. It is a gothic romance, and I hadn't really ever read a gothic romance before, so I wasn't sure how I was gonna feel about it, but I loved the characters. I really liked the dynamic between the love interests and all the banter that you get in the books. People kind of describe it as a spooky Bridgerton. The main character, Signa, she basically has this special power where she can visibly see death, and death is like a person in the books. She can also see ghosts and talk to the dead, and it takes place in like this Victorian 1800s kind of timeline, I guess you could say. So they go to balls, and you have all of these girls kind of coming out into society looking for husbands, and she's trying to balance what she wants as just being a girl, and then also like, oh, I can see the dead too, and having to have this relationship with death. I just think it was so well done. I absolutely loved that universe. Foxglove, I would also say ate it up, but didn't give it a 5-star feelings. The only book that I rated in that series that was a 5 stars was Wisteria. Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez was also in that video. That was definitely Inject This Into My Veins, Please. That book was the first Abby Jimenez book that I ever read, and it really made me want to read more of her books. I really just liked the style of writing. It's not just a romance. I feel like the romance genre can just be so repetitive, and you can very easily guess kind of what's going to happen because of the different tropes that authors include. Don't get me wrong, I love myself a good romance. I eat it up every single time. But something about her books, she just makes them so emotional. There is like greater depth to the story. There's greater depth to the characters. They just feel so real and so raw. And I just loved the healthy communication that was in this book. I loved the main guy that was in this book. He was so sweet, and they just really wanted the best for each other and just loved each other so well, and it was just so realistic, and I absolutely adored it. A Curse for True Love, I would probably say maybe I'll put it in Ate It Up, but didn't get 5-star feelings, because I did really like the new characters that were in that book as well. There's a new family that gets introduced, and to be honest, if Stephanie Garber wrote a book about them, I would 100% read it. This book definitely reminded me of the Vampire Diaries and the originals, if you guys have seen those shows. The Stolen Heir, I did mention that in the beginning of this video from my Goodreads review. I would say I don't remember reading it, because I truly don't remember reading it because I fell asleep in the car. I was listening to the audiobook, and that is a book that I definitely need to go back and reread at some point. Enchanted to Meet You. This was a Halloween style book. It's like a witchy rom-com. It was really cute. I really enjoyed the story. I thought it was really well done, and I don't really read a lot of like holiday style books. They're just like not really my thing. I think they're fun for the season, but I also just have so many books on my TBR I would rather get to than reading something that's just like for the fall season or for Halloween or Christmas or whatever. I would recommend it, but haven't thought about it twice. Iron Flame, that one was probably Inject This Into My Veins, Please. I believe I rated that one a 5 stars. I read it in like 3 days without stopping. Very, very excited for Onyx Storm that comes out at the end of January. I actually pre-ordered it to my Kindle, so the moment it comes out, it will be downloaded onto my Kindle, and I will be reading it, so you guys know where I'm going to be at the end of this month. June 1st, I honestly don't know where to put this. This book, I actually have a reading vlog on my channel of me reading it. Absolutely made me sob. Like, it was so freaking sad. Definitely check the trigger warnings if you're gonna read it, and if you want to see my reactions to me reading it, I will link the reading vlog up here so you guys can go check it out. There was a trope in here that just really gave me the ick, especially by the end. I don't know, like, it was a good story, but I just couldn't move past that one specific trope. So I'm gonna say we were rooting for you. The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore, this is the second book in a series. The first one is Pumpkin Spice Cafe. They're very, very cute, cozy fall reads. They are very Gilmore Girls-esque. You get like the small town fall vibes. They're really, really good to read if you just wanna get in like the fall holiday season. And for me personally, even living in Florida where the weather is the same all the time and the holidays come around, I do get a lot of FOMO, and it is really hard for me to kind of get in the holiday spirit. These books definitely helped me to kind of get more in the holiday spirit. Would recommend, but haven't thought about it twice. First Lie Wins, that's going to go in the Wasn't Worth My Time / DNF. I actually ended up DNFing that book. It was just really boring, and I just didn't want to continue reading it. A Study in Drowning, we were rooting for her. I thought the premise of that book sounded so cool. Also, the cover is beautiful. It just like wasn't what I thought it was gonna be at all, and I was so disappointed. It was kind of weird actually toward the end. Like I didn't really like it that much. The Perfect Couple, that was my first Ellen Hildebrand book that I read this year and like ever. I ate that one up, but I didn't get a 5-star feeling reading that one. This was actually one that we read for book club. I was genuinely surprised by how much I enjoyed it. Ellen Hildebrand writes a lot of, I don't want to say thriller because they're not scary, mystery drama romances that take place in Nantucket, which is New England summer, I guess you could call it. Very beachy, very fun to read during the summertime. I remember getting to the end, I truly did not know like what way the story was gonna go. I actually really liked that. The 7-Year Slip, that was so cute. I would say ate it up, but didn't get a 5-star feeling. I think that was like a solid 4-star read for me. I really enjoyed the magical realism that's in there and also the storyline. I thought that was really cute. A Compass and Blade wasn't worth my time / DNF. I finished that book, so it wasn't a DNF, but it was just really bad. It's actually one that I had on my TBR for a really long time. It is a fantasy book. It takes place on this like island. It's about this girl and there's mermaids, which I thought was really cool. Like it sounded really cool, but then it just like wasn't good at all. I did not like the main character. She just made so many bad choices. And I was like, why are you doing this to yourself? So Dark Matter, this one wasn't a 5-star book for me, but inject this into my veins, please. I really enjoyed that book. It is a sci-fi book by Blake Crouch, and they actually have a show on Apple TV. I did watch the show recently, and I thought they followed the book. Like it was really well done. Really cool to see how they brought it to film. It has to do with the multiverse. It has time travel in it. The writing is so well done. Just the way that he like thought about the plot and put everything all together. Like I was really impressed. Would highly recommend checking out that book. Holiday Romance, again, I would say I would recommend, but I haven't thought about it twice. I realized as I was reading it, it's a series, but I read the second one in the series in 2023, and then when I downloaded it onto my Kindle, because it's on Kindle Unlimited, it came up as the first book, and I was like, whoa. I didn't realize I had started the series because I don't remember reading the second book at all. Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. I listened to the audiobook for this. I actually really enjoyed this one. I would say probably would recommend, but haven't thought about it twice. I'm now realizing I maybe should have had a different category because I feel like I have so many books that I enjoyed, but it's not like that they were bad, you know? But I really liked the advice that she kind of gives in this. She talks about a lot about how it's important that you have female friendships in your life. I just feel like I really resonated with a lot of things that she kind of talks about. And she does have a really crazy life, not one that I can relate to in that way, but I think for everything that she was feeling and all of the life lessons that she kind of learned along the way, it was really helpful, and I could resonate with a lot of that as a girl who is in their late 20s. Oh my gosh, this next one was also a memoir, and if you guys know me, you would know that I love the show One Tree Hill. This is actually a Book of the Month book that I got from Book of the Month. When I found out that Bethany Joy Lenz wrote a memoir about her time on the show and also her being in a religious cult, I was like, I have to read this. And it was so interesting. Like I said, I don't really rate memoirs and nonfiction, so I didn't give it a rating. I just thought it was so interesting. I would say ate it up, but didn't give it a 5-star feeling. Everything that she went through, she's just so brave. I'm so happy she got out of the situation that she was in. It was just really eye-opening to kind of see what she went through at that time and to know like all the backstory of her time while she was filming the show. It's just really not what I expected, I guess, which also makes me sad because I feel like now when I go to rewatch it, I'm gonna know and it's not gonna be the same. Live by Sadie Robertson Huff. As you guys know, I always recommend Sadie Robertson Huff. She is a Christian author. I just think she's a very good speaker, a very good writer. If you are in your late teenage years, if you're a girl in your 20s, I just always recommend her because she just is so good. So I would probably put this in would recommend but haven't thought about it twice. That tends to happen to me with devotionals that I read and memoirs and things. Like you enjoy it in the moment, but then it's just kind of let's move on to the next one. One of the things that I actually did this year was I finished the Chestnut Springs series. Elsie Silver is very popular. I'm sure that you guys have heard of her, but Heartless, I would say we were rooting for you. I didn't really care for the first book, Flawless. I think I read that in 2023. And to be honest, I didn't really care for the love story that was in this one. And then I read Powerless. That was definitely ate it up, but didn't get 5-star feelings. I loved the romance that was in this one. The main female character, she's a dancer, and then the guy, he's a hockey player, and he's kind of like an elusive character. He's very quiet, and you get to learn all about his backstory. They're actually been friends for a long time, so you get like that friends to lovers trope in there too. The next book in the series was Reckless. I would say inject this into my veins, please. That was my favorite book out of the whole series. I just really liked the tropes that were in that one. I loved the romance. Hopeless, I would say we were rooting for you. I didn't really care for the main characters in that one. It was just like, okay. By the time like you're reading the 5th one, you're so invested in the family and in the characters. Just want to kind of see where they're at. But I don't know, I just felt kind of let down reading that one. There wasn't really anything like special about that book. Then we have What the River Knows. This is actually a duology. I would put this in We Were Rooting for You. The way that it was marketed was they were comparing it to the Mummy movies, if you guys have seen those. It was just not what I expected it to be. Originally, when I read this one, I was like, I'm not going to read the second one. I actually listened to the audiobook at the end of last year because I just wanted an audiobook to listen to, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, I'll just finish reading the duology. So I would probably put that in We Were Rooting for You as well. The next book that is on our list is The Meaning of Marriage by Timothy Keller. It is a Christian book all about relationships. I think it's good to read if you are single, if you're in a relationship, if you're married. Obviously, he was married to his wife, Kathy, for a very long time. I did enjoy it. I remember taking a lot of notes on it. There's so many good questions at the end of each chapter. I would definitely end up rereading it. I would recommend it, but haven't thought about it twice just because there's so much like info dumping in it that sometimes it's just like so much for you to process. Like you have to take a while to process it. This is How You Heal. I do have more books on my TBR by this author that I would like to read. Again, like I was just saying, you have to process it for a while. So I would say I would recommend, but haven't thought about it twice. But I would sit down and like read through it again. I did tab that book, so I think it would be fun to kind of go back at some point and look at those tabs. We are almost at the end of the list, I promise. Another book series that I was very excited to get into this year, or last year. You guys know, I love Mia Sarah J. Maas book. I am a big Agatar fan. I finished the Throne of Glass series last year, and the only other series she has is the Crescent City series. So I actually ended up reading all 3 of them. I don't know, this is so hard because I feel like I didn't like this series as much as the other 2, but I did really like the world. It was just so much info dumping the entire time. Like it wasn't that it was bad, but I don't think I had a 5-star book out of that entire series, which is so unlike it for me because the other books that I've read by her, I've had at least 1 5-star. So I would say We Were Rooting for You. I would honestly say for all 3 books, we were rooting for you. I don't know. I think I was just expecting more because it's Sarah J. Maas. Like I still really like them, and I did rate some of them like up in the higher 4. Love Light Farms, I would say I don't remember reading that one. Like it was just another okay Christmas book. There wasn't really anything special about it. And then Verity, I did rate this one 5 stars. But I am gonna put it in ate it up, but didn't get a 5-star feeling. I wouldn't inject it into my veins if that makes sense. I think it is the best Colleen Hoover book that is out there, like hands down. If you were going to read a Colleen Hoover book, definitely read Verity. And if you like mystery thriller books, don't discount it just because it's written by Colleen Hoover. I thought it was phenomenal. Moving on to another series. Well, actually, I'll grab Kingdom of Ash because I did mention that. I would say ate it up, but didn't get a 5-star feeling. I did not rate that one 5 stars. I think I rated it 4 something. It is a conclusion to the series, which is so bittersweet because I love all of those characters so much and I love that world and everything. I would love to reread that book series, but I didn't really get a 5-star feeling. There is a lot of politics in that book and you get a lot of character POVs, which isn't a bad thing. I like seeing, you know, being in all of their heads. I definitely had my favorites and then people where I was just like, I just don't really care about their POV. Like, let's move on to the next one. The only other series I have on this list is Powerless by Lauren Roberts, and there is Fearless that's coming out in April, which I'm pretty excited for. I only say I'm excited because I'm excited to finish the series. Like, I have the hard copies of them on my bookshelf, but like if I didn't have the hard copy, I would be okay. For the first one, would recommend it, but haven't thought about it twice because I do think it was a really good starter book. But the second book, I absolutely did not like. That would definitely be We Were Rooting for You. I just thought it was so boring. It was very, very repetitive. I did not like the style of writing that she, I guess, went for, especially like in the plot. I just feel like the same thing was happening over and over and over again. It was very frustrating as a reader, seeing them do the same things, just kind of be in a different place, I guess. I am very curious though how she's gonna wrap up the third book. It's not supposed to be this way. Again, I would say would recommend it, but haven't thought about it twice. I read this right in the heat of me going through a breakup. And this book is all about going through disappointments, and it is a Christian book, so she does talk a lot about like her experience with the Lord and how sometimes things happen that you don't want to happen. She paints it in a light where Lisa Turkis, the author, has gone through so much herself. She has had cancer. She actually went through a divorce. She actually just got remarried, I think, last year. She had a lot of issues with her parents growing up. It was like a whole thing. And I just feel like as an author, like she's one of the most relatable Christian authors out of all the books that I've read. I would go back and reread it if, you know, at a time where I felt like I needed to, because I do feel like there's really good advice in it. I would say Uninvited. I don't remember reading that one either. That's also by Lisa Turkis. I listened to that on audio. My therapist had actually recommended that one to me, and I don't remember. I don't remember reading it. That's so bad. Eras Tour. So I put that on my Goodreads. It was the 46th book that I read, so it was the last book that I needed to complete like my reading challenge of 2024. It is mostly pictures, okay, but I went to the Eras Tour in April of 2023 when she came to Tampa, and I'm a diehard like Taylor Swift fan. You guys know this about me. So this is definitely going and inject this into my veins, please. If I could go to her tour again, 1000% would. The Unmaking of June Farrow. This was the last book that I read in 2024. I would say We Were Rooting for You. I actually recommended this, or I picked this for our book club. I just thought it was boring. From what the blurb on the back of the book said, I thought it sounded super interesting, and it's also very highly rated, but there wasn't really anything special about it. Like, it didn't really draw my attention too much, and I was kind of disappointed. I think I rated that one 3 stars. The last book that we have to tier rank is Hunting Prince Dracula. This is actually the second book in the Stalking the Jack the Ripper series by Carrie Maniscalco. I actually really like the series. I am hoping I can finish it this year. I've done all the audiobooks for this series. I would say would recommend it, but haven't thought about it twice. They're really good books to read, like if you just want something to listen to. I would say they're probably like mid, like 3-star reads. There are other Carrie Maniscalco books that I really want to read. Like I really want to read Kingdom of the Wicked. It just sounds so interesting to me. I also have Throne of the Fallen sitting on my bookshelf as well. I'm super excited to dive into that one. But this is the final list, you guys. I have a lot of would recommend it, but haven't thought about it twice. Like I said in my last video, I only had 5-star reads for the whole year. I feel like I read a lot of books that were good. I didn't really read a lot of books that were bad. I think I just read a lot of books that were like, okay, that was good, like, but there wasn't really anything special about them. So hopefully this year for 2025, we'll read some really, really good books. We'll find some new 5-star reads that I'm just gonna be obsessed with. Let me know if you guys have read any of these books and where you would tier rank them on your list. So enough with me rambling. I feel like I talked for a really long time. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you guys are having a great day wherever you are, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.